February 16th,
Thank you.
2022 Planning Board meeting. Says 2021, I'm a little out here. We're off to a rocky start out of the gate. 2022 meeting. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Woodfin.
Here.
Counselor Pierce.
Here?
Member Rosenberger.
Here.
Member Hicks.
Here.
Member Smithmeyer. Here. Member Fox.
Here.
Member Santa Cruz.
Here.
Member Savage.
Here.
And a formal welcome to Amanda Savage, who's joining us tonight. For those of you that haven't met her, she'll be an official member of the Planning Board going forward. So
Thank you.
welcome, Amanda. So first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the January 19th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to submit, or to approve those minutes as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Quick agenda overview. 8F and 8G have been postponed to the March 16th, 2022 meeting. We need to take a motion to postpone those two. If someone would like to make a motion to move those two events to the 16th
So moved.
of March.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Quick meeting agenda note. I hope everybody doesn't get up and leave, but we've got an item on our agenda tonight for the Abbot Road project. That's a determination of completeness component, which is a procedural piece that we have to hear to find the application complete, set the public hearing for the March 16th meeting. So if anybody's here tonight to give public testimony, we're not taking any public testimony on the Abbot Road project. Just want to let everybody know that right out of the gate.
No.
And I think that's it for agenda
No,
overview.
Shaker Road is the same, if anybody's here for the Shaker Road.
Anybody's here for the Shaker Road project, it's the same, again, determination of completeness, and we'll accept public testimony on the 16th. So if anybody's here for
March
those,
16th.
we will not, March 16th, yeah, we will not be taking any public testimony on those. And we won't be making any decisions, we're just, again, it's a procedural piece for us to make sure that the application's complete. Okay, so determination of completeness components here, we've got three items on the agenda. Item 5A is the Abbott Road determination of completeness. Staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for March 16th. We'd like to just discuss it as a board member. I know Councilor Pierce would like to make a quick comment regarding the project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I asked to have this pulled from the consent, and there's been a lot of talk in the neighborhood about this, and I know I've had conversations with staff. The project looks pretty good, but there are a number of questions as we go through. Specifically, whether or not it abuts protected wetlands, wondering if there's communications with the neighbors from the developer, so on and so forth. So I'll be asking some of those questions when the developer comes in. So thank you.
Absolutely. And again, I'm sure probably the developer's not even here, but those will be all addressed and outlined at the public hearing. So we've got a determination of completeness component, not a development of regional impact. Someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not development of regional impact, and set this public hearing for March 16th.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing will be on the 16th for that project. Shaker Road School District, determination of completeness component, again, not a development of regional impact, and setting the public hearing for March 16th. Any discussion from the board regarding that project? If not, we'll take a motion to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for March 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And we've got items 5C on the agenda, which is a car wash. That has a determination of completeness component as well, not a development of regional impact. I will say, if anybody's listening regarding the car wash project, I definitely am going to have some very difficult questions to ask of the developer regarding the layout, regarding the structure, the setting on the Loudon Road entrance, the way they've got cars stacked. So we'll definitely want to get some staff input if they're listening, to get in with staff and talk to staff about the layout, because as it sits, I'm not very confident that we'll get a lot of support for it. So again, there is a determination of completeness component. Any other comments from the board regarding this? If not, we'll take a motion to determine the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and set the public hearing for March 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, design review by consent. If anybody's here regarding signs on the, on your agenda, which are outlined in item 5A through, sorry, 6A through F. We're going to pull 6E from the consent agenda, so 6, A, B, C, D, and F are all going to be approved by consent. If you're here in opposition of any of those signs or would like to speak for whatever reason on those signs, if you could make yourself known. Okay, hold on. Which one?
I'm sorry, I'm actually 6E, I'm the applicant.
6E, so hold on, we're going to talk about that in just a second.
Perfect, thank
So anybody on any of the other signs, A, B, C, D, or F? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve those applications on consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And just for the record, those will be with architectural design review recommendations. All those opposed? That motion carries. So we will hear 6E if you want to come up to the table here for a sec. Madam Clerk, could you read 6E into the record?
Advantage Signs, on behalf of Greenblatt and O'Rourke PLLC, requests ADR approval for the installation of one new non-illuminated wall sign at 49 North Main Street in the Central Business Performance District.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record?
Sure, it's actually Seth Greenblatt of Greenblatt and O'Rourke instead of Advantage Sign here today.
Okay, and you had questions regarding this. I think we saw this last month, didn't we?
Yeah.
We
This
did,
is the one that we
Sent it
struggled
back.
with we sent it back to ADR, right?
correct.
Okay, get a little staff
I'll give you a
update.
little staff update, sure. So if you remember last month, ADR had issues with its location within the arch because there is this additional structure support on the corner of the building, which pushes the sign slightly off-center within the arch. They wanted to see it centered within the arch. The applicant came back with a proposal mounting the sign as a blade sign projecting above one of the columns. The landlord was not favorable of that location. They wanted to put it in the brick band above what you can see in the photo. That would require a variance. So we are back to square one with the original submission.
Okay, can you add anything?
Not particularly, other than to say that, you know, we've tried to play around with the design and the layout, sort of understanding that it would look best if it were centered in the archway, except for the fact that the door is off-centered in the archway and the structure of the building is off-centered in the archway. And sort of no matter how you place it, something is askew. There is an existing bracket there, and we sort of fell on it actually looks best, in our opinion, when it's centered on the doorway rather than centered on the archway. But I'm not sure that there is a perfect solution here, just given what the building looks like. It appears that a sign has been in this bracket in the past, and so we're not doing something that's, you know, new and unusual, hoping to get a sign up sooner rather than later. We are thinking about potentially coming back for a variance for a blade sign in the future, but we understand the timeline for that would be something like June 30th by the time we would get a sign in place, and you know, as the business owner, that's not ideal. So we'd like to get something up sooner than that.
Perfect. Any comments from the board?
Another question. I didn't see the ADR minutes that this was heard again. Is that true?
I don't know.
Correct, because nothing came back, because
Okay.
we went through internal staff review of the resubmission would require variances, so there was actually nothing new for ADR to review.
Okay. So my only comment would be, I think the only people that are really going to see this are us.
Yeah, yep.
So I would move approval of this at some point.
Okay, any other comments or concerns, questions? Again, I think it's the best of the best, and does look that way. Yes, Heather?
Did ADR revise their recommendation to approval, saying that there was no other alternative?
No, they recognized the issues similar with what you were speaking about, the skew of the building, but they wanted to see it centered within the arch, and if there were no changes, their comments still stood.
Okay. And I have one more question for you. So the owner didn't want the blade sign, but you're saying you need a variance and then you were going to pursue the blade sign?
So there's a sign for the Federal Credit Union that goes the entire span of the building there, and to put a blade sign that would not require a variance would essentially block their sign if you're proceeding up Main Street. So we would like to put it on the second floor, but in order to do that,
Oh,
we
I
would
see.
need a
So
variance.
the owner's okay with that?
As long as the city is, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, city might not be okay with it, but I don't think, yeah, because you're gonna run into like sightline issues with those lights and whatnot. So, any other questions from the board? Suzanne?
So no, I'm just wondering if they could, I'm not sure how they would fix it, but there's that, if they could go over that, what is that thing, that piece, the trim board that's on the right-hand side? Could it appear more centered if it was raised up higher and then it went into that little space?
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if they, it's just like where it is, if they, because as the sign goes up higher, the space gets smaller. And so, Heather, can you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
See
I'm
where the
not-
arch, and there's that little piece of trim board?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that would.
I don't know
I
if
think
that's-
I think the level that it's at right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, looks like it's aligned with some other signs that are in that general area on the building.
That's correct, and I mean, if we came down below sort of the architectural feature on the pillar that's there, we'd be sort of visually obstructing the doorway. I think that would actually
I think-
No,
look
up.
bizarre as well. Oh, you want to move further
Yeah,
up?
I think going up would look weird because there are other signs on that building that are right in
Oh,
line
okay.
with where it is, and I think that
Plus
would look
it's-
more weird than.
Plus it gets into the arch at that point, so
Yeah.
you're gonna have to create, it's gonna be either in
Yeah, I
front of
guess-
it or behind it.
Yeah, I guess that's just where it's gonna have to go.
Okay, so I think Matt's got a motion on the table. Matt, well,
know
actually,
if it was a
Suzanne,
public
or,
hearing.
sorry, Teresa?
I was going to second his motion because I think this is about as good as you're going to
Yeah, I
get.
was just gonna say, I think
We
that's
have to
probably
close
as
the
good as you're
public
gonna get.
hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if we have to close the public hearing.
What's
You had a
that?
motion?
No, you didn't make a motion. You said you were gonna.
I was going to make a motion.
Oh, I thought
But I have
you
to wait
made-
until the proper time.
I'll let you make that motion if you'd like to, Mr. Hicks.
All right, I'll make the motion, we approve as it looks like in this picture.
The
second.
sign as it approves in the picture?
Yeah.
And that's a second from Teresa?
Yep, yep.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you, everybody, we appreciate it.
If I
And
may,
Sam?
what's your business, sir?
We're a law firm.
Thank
And
you.
Sam, you can express that to the Architectural Design Review Committee? That would be great.
Thanks
Did you
again,
sign,
everyone.
I'm sorry, did you sign in so we get your name? Thank you.
I don't have to. All right, item 7 on our agenda, if we could read 7A into the record?
Sousa Signs, on behalf of Convenient MD, requests ADR approval for the installation of a non-illuminated wall sign at 265 to 273 Loudon Road in the Gateway Performance District. The applicant did request to have this pulled from consent. They did not agree with ADR's recommendations.
Okay, and we've seen this as well, correct? No?
I don't believe so,
No.
no.
Not this one.
Maybe I just saw it.
You read the minutes.
I did. No, I saw it the other day when it popped up on the agenda. So this is a temporary sign, is that right?
No. So our ordinance for temporary signs is a 45-day permit. This would last longer than 45 days, but given the nature of the purpose it is serving, you would hope that it is temporary,
You'd hope-
but it is longer than
Knocking on
45
wood, you're
days.
hoping it's gonna be, okay. So this is gonna be a COVID-19 vaccine and booster site,
Yes.
and they're putting it on the building just like that, so people know where it is, and they don't go walking into Walgreens or whatever looking for it, all right? Oh, no, this is a standalone Convenient MD, correct? It's not, there's no Convenient MD aligned with this property right here, right?
No, so
Just a
it's like a
standalone.
satellite site.
Okay, so,
It's under the Convenient MD umbrella,
Right.
if you will.
Yes.
And it's just a vaccination and booster.
okay, and ADR just didn't like the sign just because it doesn't look like a normal sign that's gonna be there for 20 years.
Basically.
Okay, and I'm sensitive to that, I can appreciate that, but I also appreciate the fact if you're driving in, you want to see what you're looking for right away. Recommendations from staff, or any comments from staff? Or is the applicant here? So we'll open the public hearing, welcome the applicant's not here. Close the public hearing. Any other staff updates on it? So architectural design review was opposed to it just in the way it looked, right?
Yeah, they would have liked to see some more traditional sign elements. They thought there was a little too much information. The partnership with the State Division of Health and Human Services seemed superfluous, and it lacked a border, things like that, just other sign elements.
I don't disagree with any of that, but again, I think it's, the intent was to be as wayfair, almost like wayfaring, or, getting people in the door as quick as they can. Yes, Council Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From the council's perspective, we've worked really hard to make sure that people know where vaccination sites are and have done a lot, especially up in this area.
Yep.
I tend to want to approve this for no other reason that it makes it very clear where you can get a vaccination. So I just leave it at that.
So there's no case or there's no sign in there now, right, Sam? Looks like it's blank. Looks like there's nothing there.
That's
So
correct.
somebody must have taken the sign that was there before. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the board? Jeff?
I would just say, I think the information on the sign is good. I think it's good that people know that it's in conjunction with the state of New Hampshire. It provides that little bit of comfort.
Yep.
That it's just not some random place, the convenient MD. Right now, I would move to approve.
Well, that sounds like a motion. If you'd like to make it, if there's no other discussion, Suzanne, yeah?
This has nothing to do with anything other than that. I think it would look better if the convenient MD was on the top and the information was on the bottom.
That was one of ADR's comments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would just
agree
do
with that.
that, because I think that makes more sense. I think you'd be able to actually see the free COVID-19 more if the blue was at the top. Just,
Everybody okay with that recommendation? Again, everything stays the same. Matt?
I agree with that, and I think that the comment in ADR minutes about an advertisement, removing the word free will go a long way to satisfy that concern. Why, I mean, other places don't put their prices up like that on the sign.
Gas stations do.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Any other comments, questions?
I mean, technically, gas stations do. They have the
They
price
do.
of every fuel, and convenience stores a lot of times have the message boards that have, 2 for $5 and stuff. So in a way,
In some
they're
ways,
already
yeah.
doing it.
But not in that plaza.
Not necessarily that plaza.
I mean, the
no.
Vision place doesn't have its, 1999 glasses or whatever. Yeah.
I'm inclined to think that from a public perspective, people going by would, if they saw the free, maybe inclined to pull in. Heather?
I was gonna say something similar. I mean, I think we're lucky that none of us really understand that to be on the demographic line where that would be important information in deciding whether or not you get it. And I think that it's valuable information that may cause someone to go in there who wouldn't otherwise have.
I think I agree
it's
with
a
you.
public safety,
In common terms,
health
I
and
think I
safety.
agree with you, Matt, but I think in this case, I think free probably
But this is a public
Makes-
health issue,
makes
and I
sense.
think that's where that little bit of variance, maybe using that word
Yeah.
here is more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote against it.
Yeah, no,
If that's
okay.
recommendation, so.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Make a motion, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the sign with the covenant that the blue panel be put at the top of the sign and the red and white be at the bottom.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes.
I just have a clarification. We don't normally use the term covenant. Do you mean with the condition? So in
Condition.
other words, they are
Sorry,
required
condition that the
required to
blue and
flip
white
it?
panel be moved to the top of the sign.
As is, though, the way the panel looks now,
Correct.
just
With
move it to the
correct-
top.
The wording, the image,
Shift
just
top to
shift.
bottom, yep. Okay, any other discussion?
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And that moves us to section 8 of our agenda, site plan subdivision, conditional use permits and applications. The fun section of the agenda, if we could read item 8A into the record?
Jeff Moran, on behalf of ZJBV Properties LLC, requests a one-year extension to meet the conditions of major site requesting a one-year extension to meet the conditions of the major site plan approval for the proposed multifamily residential development at 70 Pembroke Road in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District.
Okay, can we get a quick staff update on this?
There's not much to update. They're just working through the conditions. They had to do some redesign work. They've been working with planning and engineering staff, and I believe we're going to get revised plans relatively soon. Nick is nodding yes. So this was just to give them a little bit more time to make sure that we had time to review it once they give us the final plans.
And I want to preface my remark about the fun part, that it wasn't Nick coming to the table. That was the fun part. But no knock against you, Nick. I'm going to have you sit right in the chair, because I don't even think we're going to need you, but no other comments from
No other comments. Nope, this is
staff?
just to give us
Any other comments
plenty
from
of
the board? We do have a public hearing, so if anybody from the public would like to speak on behalf of this or opposed to this? Nope. Okay. So we've got an applicant, or the applicant's requesting that we approve an applicant's request for a one-year extension to meet the conditions of the major site plan approval. As part of this action, indicated that all conditions of the original approval shall remain in full force and effect. Precedent conditions shall be met by March 17th, 2023. 2023, sorry, March 17th, 2023. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that recommendation as outlined so eloquently by the chair?
So moved.
Oh, moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
And just for
Is that
the,
all you're here for, Mr.?
All I got for today.
Okay.
just for the record, we did intend the
open.
public hearing be closed.
And the public hearing was closed, just,
Yeah.
I
Okay, just-
mentally thought the public hearing was closed, but
I got that back.
Nick threw me off. Okay.
Like one of those
All
little.
right, so that moves us on to 8B, and again,
Right.
if you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting, 8F and 8G have been postponed to the March 16th meeting, so if you're here for 8F or 8G, those won't be heard tonight. Moving us to 8B, 146 Manchester Street, LLA.
Lot line adjustment.
Okay, if we could read that into the record?
North Point Engineering, on behalf of Barbara Mariano LLC, 146 Manchester Street LLC, Mark P. and Michelle A. Lefebvre, trustees, request minor subdivision approval for a lot line adjustment at 10 and 12 Integra Drive and 146 Manchester Street in the Highway Commercial District and Industrial Districts. Staff does recommend the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact, and for the public hearing to be opened.
That's why I have you read them into the record. Okay, so we have a determination of completeness component for this application. Staff has found the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and we can open public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete?
So moved.
Open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and roundly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Public hearing is open. We get a quick staff summary and update on this.
Sure, so
If the applicant's here, feel free to come up.
this, this is a lot line adjustment to address some lot line encroachments that are occurring on 10 and 12 and 146, and, 10 and 12 Integra Drive and 146 Manchester Street. We have been working with the property owner, attorneys, and Jeff Lewis to address some of those encroachments. The lot line adjustment is the first step. They will be moving forward with a variance and a site plan at future meetings. But this is step one to get them moving forward on that. So they're not asking for any waivers on this, and staff is recommending the lot line adjustment be approved.
And just for the record, I think this is the most lot information I've ever seen on one of our applications, on one of our reports.
It's a lot of lots.
It's a lot of lots.
A lot of lots,
A lot of lines on those
a
lots.
lot of lines in those lots.
Well, it's a supplemental had a request for 2 waivers, though.
Did it?
In the supplemental, Jeff's letter here,
Oh,
following
wetlands and
waivers for
wetland
wetlands.
I think, yeah, it was site plan info to be provided. I think.
Oh. How did I miss that? Jeff, you didn't point that out.
Oh, my goodness.
Are there wetlands?
There are no wetlands.
So they
No,
don't,
maybe
even-
they don't
that's
need it.
why
It
he
wasn't
wants the waiver.
applicable.
they don't even apply.
Okay, maybe that's why I didn't mention it. It's not applicable since there are no wetlands out there.
And so there's no need for a waiver.
There's no need for a waiver.
All right, perfect.
All right, welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
My name, for the record, is Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering, and for the record, this is the fun part of the agenda.
There you go. And Nick's gone, so he can't object.
Really?
Yeah, this is a very straightforward, I think, lot line adjustment. You have a set of plans that Bartlett's office prepared. It's a 2-sheet set. I thought I'd just mark up a copy of the JS map to make it a little more straightforward, if you can see that. There's a few parcels in question here. There's Manchester Street and Integra Drive, which everyone's familiar with, I know. So there's one undeveloped piece left on Integra Drive after the Pitco piece gets developed at the end of the road, and that's 10 Integra Drive, which is right here. And that is owned by Barbara Mariano LLC, actually. It's a 3.54 acre parcel, and the proposal is to kind of divide it up and sell it off to the adjacent properties here. So we have a kind of a light industrial use adjacent here, which we call the Lefebvre parcels, Mark and Michelle Lefebvre who own that. That's a 3.7 acre parcel at 12 Integra Drive. And then up here on Manchester Street, we have the Mariano dealership, existing dealership lot, which is at 146 Manchester Street, which is a 3.2 acre existing developed lot. And then kind of not part of this application, but associated with it is the Subaru dealership at 150 Manchester Street right here. That's the kind of existing conditions, and then the proposed is to carve up 10 integra parcel like this. We have a little, what we're calling the sliver piece here, that's a half an acre sliver, which would go to the LaFave piece here to make their lot a little larger, half an acre larger. And then we got just over an acre in the back that's gonna go to the Mariano parcel to make them about an acre larger. That'd give them some additional area for vehicle storage back there, at the back of their property. And then what will be left over is this 10 integra drive. Lot of record will shrink down from 3.5 acres to just under 2 acres. It has required frontage on Integra Drive, so it still meets the lot sizing criteria. So for the moment, it will be a standalone lot, but the ultimate intent is for that lot to be merged together with the Subaru dealership, who will be buying this lot for the same reason, to increase their vehicle storage on the back of the property. All these dealerships are in need of additional space. So this parcel is pretty much going to be divided up between those 3 lots that are adjacent to it, which all need additional room to operate their businesses there. So there's just a few moving parts out there in terms of getting the lot line adjustment approved before the planning board is the first thing we need to do. We also have pending variances before the zoning board. We were there in February, we'll be back in March. For the uses, we technically did variances for the uses in order for the 2 dealerships to expand into the industrial zone, which is what the Integra Drive property is. And then after that, they'll have to come back before you folks for site plan approval for the additional parking area on these sections of the lots. So this is really just to move the property lines, and then we'll be back at some point this year for the site plan approvals. That's about it.
Okay, I'm intrigued with the little sliver piece there. What prompted that in there? What's that? Encroachment.
Yeah, so, yeah, they had leased that area to 12 Integra, so they've been using it as parking.
That's right, yep. It's already being used by them, so we're trying to clean everything up, make everything legitimate now, and bring everything into compliance.
There's plenty of space down at the bank's lot. You could go down there and park.
Sure. Add a lot
Okay.
of traffic to the road.
Oh, yeah, more traffic, driving cars up and down the road. Okay, any other comments from staff? Questions from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or concerns about this application? Nope.
Jeff is,
Yes, Jeff?
I guess my only question, so what happens in the meantime between now and the time you come back for site plan approval? Are they still allowed to use this lot for parking and everything that they've been continuing to use it?
yes, they've been working with the code office. It's sort of a, do you make them clean it up? But they're already in the process of trying, so this is part 1 of trying to legitimize everything. So code is not forcing them to move everything off of the site, knowing that it's going through the review process. If they were not going to be going through this process, then code would go forward with enforcement. But right now, since they are agreeable and they are meeting with us, then it's one of those in-process things.
Thank you.
How much of the site's being used now, the whole site?
Pretty much the whole site.
Lot 10?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It's all gravel, it's all plowed, this car's parked back there, I was in there the other day.
Okay. Well, that's not good
To look at it.
to look at. Comments, questions, concerns? Well, and good for you for getting it figured out and cleaned up. Would someone like to make a motion to, wait, we're gonna close public hearing, thank you.
Earl, just hit him.
Been doing this all
Just hit him every time. Yeah. Hilarious.
Okay, we're good with you, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Here.
It is fun.
Okay, so in your packet, under item 3.1 is to grant the minor subdivision approval. So no waivers, no nothing, right? It's just straightforward. Okay, so grant the minor subdivision approval for lot line adjustments between 10 and 12 Integra Drive and 146 Manchester Street, subject to the following precedent conditions. And those are outlined in precedent conditions 1 through 7. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. You're all set. Thank you very much. Okay, we could read item 8C into the record.
Brady Sullivan Properties LLC, on behalf of the State of New Hampshire DOT, requests minor subdivision approval for a 2-lot subdivision at 11 Stickney Avenue and comprehensive development plan approval, which is a requirement for subdivisions in the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. Staff does recommend that staff recommends that you open the public hearing. We also recommend approval of the comprehensive development plan. And if the board does approve the comprehensive development plan, we also recommend that the subdivision be considered complete and not a development of regional impact.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the CDP needs to be approved prior to the approval of the subdivision.
Okay.
But as far as we're concerned, they're both all set at this point. So simply open the public hearing. Sam probably has an update.
The applicant has also requested a waiver, as this is a major subdivision, given it's
correct.
4 lots, to do the determination of completeness in the public hearing in the same meeting.
Okay.
Which we are support.
Are supportive. Okay, so we got a determination of completeness, not a development of regional, or is a development of regional?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you should determine it complete prior to approving the comprehensive development plan or not, but I would just recommend that you talk about open the public hearing, approve the comprehensive development plan, and then make motions relative to the.
We will take that up, so we will, just keep me on track, make sure I do it in the right order. So we'll address the comprehensive development plan first.
I have to check and make sure I'm looking at the right.
Would we get a quick staff update? Is the applicant here? Come on up.
Please sign in.
And if you could just sign in while we're chit-chatting here, that would be great. So, all right, Sam, give us an update on the comprehensive development plan.
Sure. These are the old DOT highway buildings. I believe there are currently some stipulations, some historic preservation issues that the applicant is working through. So the comprehensive development plan is built around maintaining all of the existing buildings. This, as Heather said, this is a condition of any subdivisions within the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. This may or may not be reflective of a site plan if and when that comes before us, but given this is a requirement, this is what we've worked with the applicant to draw up, and we had a couple of comments, and they have addressed that, and the current CDP reflects those.
Okay, welcome to the table. If you guys could state your names for the record.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street in Nashua. I've got the wrong plans pulled up here.
Okay, Tom, and with you is?
With me here tonight is Arthur Sullivan and Chris Lewis from Brady Sullivan Properties, as well as Attorney Dan Muller from Cronin, Bisson, and Zielinski. As noted, we're here tonight seeking subdivision approval for what is essentially a 2 into 4 lot subdivision located at 11 Stickney Ave. So, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, I have a brief presentation that kind of covers all the elements, including the CDP, and after which we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So the existing site, as mentioned, is 11 Stickney Ave. It's certainly a unique property owned by the state, consisting of 2 parcels as we understand it today. Lot 1 is about 6.5 acres. It contains the existing buildings as referenced, along with the park and ride parking lot on the north side of the site. Lot 1 is abutted directly by what we're calling Old Stickney Ave, which we believe is still a public way.
We do have a pointer, a laser pointer, if you would like to.
Okay.
If that would be helpful to you.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I just thought that might be beneficial
problem.
with your presentation.
I can also point to it here as well.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I don't want to
I'm used to
Stick
it.
around.
stab anybody in the eye.
He has one good eye.
You didn't bring your shades tonight.
I'll stick to the cursor if that's okay, and let me know if anybody can't see it. So I'll start again. So lot 1 is this parcel here as I'm showing. It's about 6.5 acres. On the southerly portion of the site, this existing buildings that were part of the old DOT highway garage. On the north part of the site as it exists today is the park and ride. Old Stickney Ave bisects the existing lot 1 with a remnant parcel that's owned by the state. It's about half an acre. It doesn't have a lot number, and it lies in between what we're calling Old Stickney and current Stickney Ave to the east. The entire site is located within the Opportunity Corridor Performance District. Abutting the site, we've got the U-Haul self-storage facility to our north. We've got city-owned land along with the railroad located to our west. To our south, we've got Loudon Road and commercial properties located on the other side of the street. And along the east side of the property, as I mentioned, there's Old Stickney. There's the remnant state-owned parcel that's located in this location here. Current Stickney Ave, as we're calling it, as well as the highway and state-owned land, including the additional parking and bus stop associated with the park and ride facility to our northeast. So as I mentioned, the subject site is known as DOT Highway Garage 12. Historically, it's been used by DOT since at least the 1930s for vehicle maintenance, site sign painting, and materials research. In 2006, DOT ceased operations on the site. Since that time, there have been various commercial tenants that have leased space on site or within the buildings. In 2015, the northerly portion of the site, again located here on the plan where my cursor is, was redeveloped by the state into a park and ride facility. A little bit of information on Old Stickney Ave and New Stickney Ave on your GIS site. It kind of represents that whole area as one contiguous right-of-way, but we actually believe there's two separate public ways there with a remnant piece in between, which of course complicates matters for all of us. Old Stickney Ave was laid out in 1895 as a 90-foot right-of-way. No record of discontinuance is known. We understand that the road has not been maintained by the city for a period in excess of 5 years. Therefore, we presume it to be a public Class 6 right-of-way. The land for current Stickney Ave was acquired by the state in the late 1940s, with the current alignment of Stickney Ave, as it's known, created in 1965 as part of the I-93 highway project. A little bit about the site. The existing property is currently developed. It contains 5 total buildings, totaling about 87,000 square feet of gross building area. The site contains large paved areas, both along Stickney Ave here, where my cursor is. Most of the paint lines are faded out there, but at one time there were about 80 spaces located in that area, as well as large paved areas in the interior of the site. Access to the site is currently provided via 3 existing curb cuts, one located to the south, one in the central location, and one to the north end of the existing park and ride. The site is serviced by municipal sewer, water, gas, telecommunications, and electric utilities. The topography of the site is generally flat with the exception of some slopes along Loudon Road. As Loudon Road climbs up, the site remains flat. In terms of what's being proposed, we're proposing to subdivide existing Lot 1 into 2 new lots, as I mentioned. Lot 1, new Lot 1, will be about 4.5 acres located on the southerly portion of the site, containing existing buildings and paved area. New Lot 1A is about 2 acres located on the northerly portion of the lot and will continue to house the existing park and ride facility that was redeveloped in 2015. With regards to the remnant parcel, again, we're looking to subdivide that existing lot 1 into 2. New Lot B, as it's shown, is about 1/3 of an acre, located in the southerly portion of the site, as I'm highlighting here. It contains the existing parking and curb cut out to Stickney Ave. And the 4th parcel is New Lot C, which is about 0.26 acres, located in the northerly portion of that existing remnant lot. So is our understanding that lots 1 and 1B, the 2 southerly parcels, will be conveyed by the state to the applicant. New lots 1A and 1C, which are located on the northerly side of the site, will be retained by the state and remain as the existing park and ride facility. On the plan, we are representing some cross-access easements where our new lot line is drawn to maintain access for both parcels to the existing curb cut on Stickney Ave. I do want to mention one piece, which is lot coverage. The existing lots today are either right at or slightly exceed the 85% maximum lot coverage requirement. So as part of this application, we are proposing to remove about 1,000 to 1,500 square feet of existing pavement on new lots 1 and 1B in order to comply with the maximum lot coverage requirement. But there are no other physical improvements being proposed as part of this application. It's otherwise just a land plan. I do want to bring up the CDP plan. Okay. So as you know, in accordance with the OCP district regulations, we prepared a comprehensive development plan that was submitted as part of the application. The CDP shows the proposed redevelopment upon new lots 1 and 1B. This redevelopment would include the adaptive reuse of the existing buildings into 80 multifamily dwelling units, along with 160 parking spaces and associated site improvements. We've had considerable back and forth with staff over the last few months on tweaking this CDP plan to reduce the amount of parking and number of spaces that are out there. If you've been out to the site, it's a sea of pavement, so we're looking to introduce a lot of green space into the site. You can see we've included allocations for outdoor patio amenity spaces on this plan. Of course, we understand this CDP to be conceptual in nature and may be subject to change as part of a forthcoming site plan application. Mr. Chair, we do have one waiver request before you here tonight. On the advice of staff, we submitted a waiver request for section 10.06 to allow for the public hearing to commence upon acceptance of this application. That request is outlined in detail in a letter prepared by Attorney Mueller dated February 14th and submitted to the board. We're happy to review the details of that waiver request if needed. So in summary, we believe the proposed application is complete and conforms with the applicable subdivision plan regulations. We've reviewed the staff report and are okay with the suggested conditions of approval. Certainly upon, if we're lucky enough to receive approval here for the subdivision application, we would look very much forward to working with staff and the board on the forthcoming site plan application to redevelop the site. So that completes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great. So just for the record, I don't know if you guys have the comprehensive development plan in your packet or not. For whatever reason, I don't. It's not listed in mine. I didn't know I saw it, and I looked at it online. I could see it online, but I couldn't see it. I just want to make sure everybody, in Granicus, it's not in the Granicus system. So I did have one question when I was looking at it. On this plan here, the new lot, on the H-shaped building, the front part of the lot, you've got a parking lot. It looks like you've got a green swipe through the middle. How do people access the middle part of the building area? Do they go into the state's lot and then cut over across into that parcel?
Okay, I lost you a little bit at what point you're referencing.
Just a little bit?
In the middle of the H-shaped?
On the right-hand
Show
side.
what you're talking about?
Right there, right there.
Oh, in here?
Yeah, I believe he's saying.
So again, I'm thinking long-term, if you're developing the parcel, if you come in the main entrance right in the front of the H, you can't get to that other parking lot without going through the state's spot, right?
Yeah, so that was part of the reason for providing some access, cross-access easements. This, it's an existing curb cut here, so both users, the residents, the future residents of a development, redevelopment here, would continue to use this shared access drive along with the park and ride folks. So it would be shared access there.
Okay. All right, any questions from the board? Suzanne?
So, I mean, I don't have a scale with me, but the patios look like they're about 30 by 30 or 40 by 40?
Your eyes are good, about 40 by 40.
Okay, many years. To me, there's not a lot of green space, so I would look at the interior space as not being paved, and that a more intimate space would probably be more enjoyable for people and not like, you know, like the concert size. But, and I think mostly because there's not a ton of green space, so I don't think, I wouldn't waste it as patio space.
This one is.
And that maybe what you could do is have areas where you can sit on your, you know, more of like an urban where you can sit along a walkway, or people create their own outdoor space, but I think that's a waste of open space.
I think your comments are fair, and these are just kind of placeholders in our minds, and each one may be different. There may be, you know, a hardscape patio area in certain locations, and in others, it's more of a passive green space. Those really haven't been programmed. One unique piece, and I don't want to dive too much into site plan related items, but in terms of keeping the existing building, there would be a number of door locations scattered throughout, especially on this H-shaped building. You can see all the different sidewalks we have. There are a number of unique door locations. It's not just one central location in the front of the building. So there is opportunity to kind of spread out the use, the green space of the site. We are always sensitive to be trying to provide parking as close to the front doors, especially with accessible space. But as I said, the existing site is a sea of pavement. What we're representing here, you know, is bringing back open space by, you know, almost 20%. So there's a lot of flexibility that we have to incorporate a number of design elements in there.
Yeah, and moving forward, I guess I would look at like some of those spaces, you know, behind the buildings, like more like, so that they're private, but they're also public, so that they're not wasting those big gathering spaces that are, and who knows what they'll look like, but it's nicer to have that flexibility with more green space, I think. And I didn't realize that they were gonna be saving those buildings. I think that's lovely.
We'll see. All of them? What, are those, is that H-shaped building 2 stories?
They can't be all.
It's a partial 2-story, so it's 2 stories up front, along Old Stickney, this piece here, and then the back T portion is 1 story.
Yes.
I was just gonna, I don't know if you have them, and that's not part of this application, but at one point, you had shown us some elevations of what those buildings might look like. Do you have those, or do you mind sharing them? Because he was asking, do we have any, which again, is not part of this application.
No, I don't need to see them.
Yeah, we don't have them with
Okay,
us
that's
here
fine.
tonight, and like I said, if we're fortunate enough to receive the subdivision approval, you know, we look forward to diving into all those elements with.
They were
with the
pretty,
board.
they looked pretty nice when we saw them the first time, so I was just curious.
Yeah,
So,
Chris,
you know-
I don't know if you want to jump
Yeah, I
in.
did not bring
No
them.
worries.
That's fine. And again, as part of the comprehensive development plan, you know, what's the property going to be used for? What's your, you know, vision of the property? I mean, is it, we didn't even talk about, is it residential? Is it part commercial? I mean, is that all residential? Are we going all residential?
Correct, yeah, we're representing 80 multifamily dwelling units here.
Okay, in all the buildings?
Correct,
Okay, so all the buildings will be residential?
yes.
Okay. Jeff?
So one thing I would comment on, you have 3 driveways that exit out into the park and ride. And it's not usual that you'd have a bunch of driveways coming into a park and ride where people are coming in, backing out, and whatnot. I think you should look to connect the front parking lot and that parking lot to the right of the H and try and get rid of at least one of those 2 driveways.
Curb cuts?
The curb cut, yeah, into the park and ride. I mean, they're so close together.
Go ahead. Heather?
I just want to, we haven't mentioned this, but the right-of-way is actually city right-of-way.
It is this way, I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm saying up this side, there's 3 driveways that come down the right-hand side of the plan
You can
that
eliminate
exit
them.
into, I think if
Oh,
they
you're
could.
talking about over there?
Correct,
Oh, I
correct.
see. Okay.
No, the ones on Stickney Ave, that's fine, I understand they're placed correctly for where you're entering the building, the back of the building. But I think if they could connect those 2 kind of on the end of the right building and maybe get rid of the middle driveway, just, it kind of cuts down on the amount of conflict points with people backing in and out. Park and rides also tend to be sometimes people who may be new to the area, and it just seems like you could probably gain the spaces back that you take out to connect on the right. I think that would be a better overall kind of flow to the site. Cuts down some of the paving, you know, to a certain extent as well. is, eventually, if that right-of-way is still city-owned, does there need to be like a city council action at some point?
Yeah, I think what they're showing right now is what they're allowed to show. They can't necessarily show at this time the connection between those parking lots because that is in city right-of-way.
Gotcha.
So they don't have permission to go through there.
As if it was a driveway
Right,
permit to
but
go
as they
in.
mentioned, that probably future their future plans may change, and we would anticipate them doing a revised CDP at some point when they knew more what they wanted to do. And so in the future, if it's possible for them to do that, I would anticipate, making those comments at that time.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were thinking the ones on the existing
I did,
stickney,
but
not the old.
the sentiment holds for both points.
Okay,
Well, your point's valid though, Jeff, because if you're coming into that entrance, you've got a driveway that turns to the left quick, and then you've got another one that turns to the left quick.
well, it also kind of leads to your point. If somebody pulled in the main driveway to the middle of the H, where the front door is and
Yeah.
the staircase up, and I'm assuming elevator is gonna be, and they suddenly realize, oh, I was supposed to be around the back of the building, they'd have to go all the way across into the parking ride lot, then back in, as opposed to just being able to loop around the side of the building.
Right.
Matt?
The only thing I would say is, as a lifelong resident of the city of Concord, the streetscape off 93 is so very important. I'm sure you understand that and know that. So whatever you can do to make this, an attractive building for everybody that drives by, thank you.
A little paint on it, it'll be better than it is now, so. Jeff?
Only other thing I have is, with our trails plans and everything, I know at some point there was tries to be connections through this general area. Is that going to potentially be considered at all as part of this project? There's a way to make a reasonable connection through? Or
I don't know. That's a
Ken,
good
maybe you
question.
look at if there's a way to work with some sort of appropriate connection if possible?
We have had some very initial talks about that. The Merrimack River Greenway Trail is somewhat designed to come through this area, so making a connection through this lot to the rail corridor to the west of it has been discussed, but we are quite far from, fleshing that out to fine detail.
I appreciate that it's being talked about, that's great. I just don't want this parcel to get developed, that's too late, and now it's difficult to make that future connection.
We'll be talking about it more.
Okay, any other questions on the comprehensive development plan?
I have one
Linda.
question, in regards to, it seems like these are like sidewalk pathways. The ones that seem to connect with the buildings, are they all gonna be entrances, exits and entrances, and clarifying, like, I just wanted to see are those sidewalk pathways, and is that meaning that they have all of these entrances to the back as,
Correct, yeah, it's a unique building, so there's not just one or two main entrances. Some of the units or some of the door locations only service one unit, and sometimes there's, 10 to 12. So, that's one of the key elements here in terms of programming out some of this outdoor amenity space, and of course, we want to provide pedestrian connectivity throughout the site as best we can. So, that's one of the unique things about this site in terms of the various door locations. It's not your cookie cutter multifamily development, but yes, there will be quite a bit of sidewalk so we can incorporate that and tie everything together.
a lot of snow cleanup?
Yeah, good point. And we'll see all that with lighting plans and things like that as well. Any other questions from the board? Any other comments from staff? So we don't have a public hearing open yet, right?
No, you should have the public hearing open at
Public
this
hearing,
point.
any member of the audience wish to address this this development plan, comprehensive development plan? No? So we'll close the public hearing. So we're a little out of sequence on this, so keep me on track here. So there's the comprehensive development plan, should we vote to accept the comprehensive development plan, approve the development plan? And then we'll handle the determination of completeness and the waiver for a public hearing the same night,
Correct,
right?
correct.
You didn't sound very, correct, yes, that's correct.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I'll make sure. Okay, so, would someone like to make a motion to, or any other discussion regarding the plan? Would someone like to make a motion to approve this or accept this? Approve this plan?
Approve.
Approve the
So moved.
comprehensive development plan as submitted.
So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that comprehensive development plan is accepted,
Approved.
approved. I had a 50-50 shot. I couldn't remember. I think this mask is making my head light a little bit.
Take a breath if you
Take a
need.
breath. So now we've got the determination of completeness, not a development of regional impact, an open public hearing.
Determination of
Or do you
completeness.
want to do the waiver first?
Although I need to apologize in advance. So I had first recommended that we open the public hearing because I knew we were going to talk about the comprehensive development plan. So you don't necessarily
And you
need to
knew I
keep
wouldn't.
closing and opening
Okay.
the public hearing. But we do recommend the application be determined complete, not a development of regional impact. And we do recommend granting the waiver to have the public hearing this evening.
Okay, so we've got a determination of completeness component, not a development of regional impact. I'm going to take those two. Would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete, not a development of regional impact, and the waiver separately? So just
Yeah,
those two.
just-
So we'll
right.
just do those two. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made.
Clarification?
Yes. All we're doing is finding the application complete and not a development.
We're
of
not
regional
voting on the waiver?
impact. No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I missed the second. Thanks, Matt.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And we've got a waiver request from the applicant to recognize that it is determination of completeness and a public hearing on the same night, which begs the question why the other applicant didn't probably put that in. I'm sure that was one of the clarification questions you were going to ask, Council Pierce.
Yeah.
But we do have the waiver. If anybody would like to make a point regarding that or discuss that, or would someone like to make a motion to grant that waiver and open the public hearing?
I'd like some discussion.
Yep.
You know, this comes up from time to time on whether or not we're going to post it. What has there been for notice to the public about possible public hearing tonight?
Yes, there has. It was, we originally thought it was a minor subdivision because we were not clearly looking at it. So we posted it for a public hearing. And then we said, oh, look, there's 4 lots. They need to request a waiver. So they requested the waiver to be in compliance with the regulations, but it has been posted for a public hearing.
So the public has been duly
Correct.
notified of the public hearing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so would someone like to make that, or to grant that waiver to have the public hearing the same night as the determination of completeness component was done? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. So now the public hearing's open.
Public hearing's open,
Okay.
and you're ready to approve this thing.
Now we're ready to approve what?
Subdivision.
Subdivision. You're kidding.
Come on.
All right, so on your packet, we've got item 4.1 is to grant minor subdivision approval for the 2-lot minor subdivision at 11 Stickney Avenue, subject to the following conditions, and those are outlined in conditions 1 through 6? Oh, can't quite see it. 1 through 6 in your packet. Would someone like to make a motion to grant minor subdivision approval as outlined?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
actually have a question.
Yep.
Oh, it says minor.
Says me.
On the site plan you show, access easement C actually cuts through the whole line of parking spaces in the park and ride. Does that mean at some future date, those parking spaces could be impacted in some way? I'm just wondering if that easement should be on the edge of the parking spaces, not cut through them, as shown.
So the intent there was just for access and not for parking.
Right, but those parking spaces lie partially within that easement that you're showing, according to this plan. So if what you're saying it's an access easement only, and it's parking within an easement, then the reverse question is if somebody came through and said, oh, that's an access easement, we can redo it, we can try and put curb there and all this, they've now impacted parking. So I'm just wondering whether there should be an adjustment there, that the easement line actually runs up the edge of the parking rather than cutting into it.
Correct, I'm seeing what you're saying, is eclipse the edge of the parking, the physical marked space
Right.
out there. So the intent was shared access there, so we'd be happy to clean that up. Whether it's a meets and bounds easement area or more of a descriptive easement that, you know, the applicant enters in with the state to continue the shared use of that.
Yeah, that's, I just, for both parties, I want to protect both parties, that one can't suddenly
Absolutely.
have overriding authority on another.
That's a fair
and
comment,
change
we'd
it.
be happy to clean that up.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion on the table?
We do not.
We do not. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that minor subdivision with,
Major.
what?
There's a typo. It's a major. It's
Major,
a holdover
sorry.
from when we thought it was.
So grant major subdivision approval as outlined with conditions 1 through 6. I'll make a motion to grant that minor subdivision approval.
Second.
Someone like to second that, seconded by David.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can you add to that motion that they correct that easement issue, so we make sure
Subject
it's
to the condition
Subject
that
to the
the
condition that-
easement,
be
easement.
adjusted to not impact parking, or the wording be adjusted to the benefit of both parties?
yes.
Okay.
We'll link that.
That'll affect your second, David. Are you all set with the second?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, and you're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Look forward to seeing your plans once you get going.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, let's read item 8D into the record if we could.
Appreciate it.
Wilcox and Barton Incorporated, on behalf of the SPCA of Concord, Merrimack County, requests major site plan approval for construction of a new 2,515 square foot structure and associated site improvements for the purpose of a commercial kennel at 93 to 95 Silk Farm Road in the open space residential district. Staff recommends that we open the public hearing.
Okay, so we've got no determination of completeness, we already did that, so we will open the public hearing, and welcome to the table. If you could state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton. It didn't look like the plans were coming up, so if you give me one moment, I'm going to just bring them up on my
All
phone.
right, while you're doing that, Aaron will, unknown error, there's my error. I knew I'd eventually run into it. Can we get a quick staff update?
Yeah.
It's a report, it's not coming up.
I don't know, you wouldn't know that.
No, it is, it's just not his. It's working on his.
Oh, sounds like a personal problem.
We may need an update or something.
Let's get a staff update.
Sure. So yeah, this was determined complete last month. Aaron and her team have done a great job of addressing all of our outstanding comments, so we're all set there. We did find, thanks to Member Santa Cruz, one issue of interest. There is a section of limited access state right-of-way that comes up Silk Farm Road from Clinton Street, and it did show that the proposed driveway was, a portion of it was within that limited access right-of-way, which couldn't be done, and I've communicated that to Erin, and I believe she has resolved that.
I do. Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Erin Lambert with Wilcox and Barton. Heather Faria, the Executive Director of the SPCA, apologizes she couldn't be here tonight. She's homesick, but she was intending to be here. So the plan before you is a 2,500 square foot single-story building located on what is now a combined, there were 4 lots that were merged to create a 5.5 acre parcel. So where you're seeing the building that's on the location, which was previously 93 and 95 Silk Farm Road, they also recently bought 240 Clinton Street. So that's how we now have a 5.5 acre parcel. I'll move to the site plan, but I wanted to just orient you on the overview. So this is Clinton Street going up and down the page, and then Silk Farm Road. The exit drive from the new development will be directly across the street from the existing driveway for the SPCA facility, to help orient you. As Sam mentioned, we have, I believe, gone through and responded to all of the outstanding city comments, which is great. One comment that was brought to our attention was an error on the last plans we submitted. There is a limited access right-of-way coming off of Clinton Street, and we were fearful that this driveway, we're using the existing location, but we're widening it a little bit. However, there was just an error on our plan. We had moved the leader, which denoted where that limited access right-of-way ended. So in fact, our driveway is located outside of that, so no site plan changes were required from what we shared with you. So we are proposing a one-way circular driveway. So as you're coming, you turn onto Silk Farm Road from Clinton Street, you'll turn right into the driveway. The reason for that is that there are a number of activities that are going to take place here. The SPCA is constructing this building because they're finding they're losing their meeting room space. If they bring a lot of animals in, that space is getting occupied. And so they're creating this building. It has 2 offices as well as a multi-purpose room. So there'll be meetings here as well as their summer camps. And so rather than having a single point of entrance that had either a dead-end driveway or creating a lot of pavement to help people circulate through, the one-way driveway allows us to facilitate parent drop-off and pickup when they do have camps. So you're looking at 21 parking spaces, one of which is ADA accessible. The property will be serviced by an on-site well and septic. There's a patio space they're creating out in the back, just off of that multi-purpose room. We are using pervious pavers. The goal of that space is just to have an outdoor space if they have meetings or camp or whatnot out in the back. And then you'll see there's a small driveway going around to the back of the building. That's to assist with if they bring food in, to help the caterers have a place to easily bring that food in to service the facility. We are well under the lot coverage now. Previously, they'd obtained 2 variances, one for the kennel use and one for lot coverage. However, through the acquisition of the additional properties, we're still below the 10% maximum lot coverage in the RO zone. The only other thing I'll mention is how we're handling stormwater here. There's basically a bioretention system that will control and treat the runoff from the parking lot. There's a drip edge around the building that will infiltrate all the water from the building, and the patio, like I mentioned, is a pervious patio. One of the other things you'll see in your packet is a landscape plan. The SPCA specifically requested low maintenance plantings, and they specifically requested that the landscape beds, if they had any, did not require mulch. It's one of the things they find hardest in terms of getting volunteers to help place it in the spring and maintain it. So the design is a rock garden, so the drip edge will sort of blend into the rock garden and be planted. And there's a detailed list of the perennials that will be in those rock gardens. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So is there sign package with this, or is there any signage?
There's not. At this point, they haven't designed a sign yet, but we are proposing a pedestal sign just to the west of the entrance into the site, so that someone's driving up, they'll see that entrance. So we'll use it as not only a sign, but also wayfinding. But that sign permit will have to go through ADR and come back to the board.
Any lighting?
Yes, there is lighting. There are a few light poles and then a couple of wall packs. So minimal lighting just to light the parking lot and the walkways into the building. They're all fully downcast and comply with the city's dark sky ordinance.
And I had one question on the back side of the building. It looks like there's an 8-foot wide sidewalk that comes off the back. Why wouldn't that sidewalk go right to the patio? Just out of curiosity.
Because of the grades, unfortunately, this really drops off.
Okay.
So you see this wetland buffer here. We
Yep.
actually had to put in a small retaining wall in order to keep our grading from going out and disturbing the wetland buffer. So we originally had been asked to, and we were providing a driveway all the way around, but really found that we were just chasing the grades so much. So we recommended having a vehicle park here and then just walk or wheel the food on the 8-foot wide sidewalk. So it gives them a
So
little.
there's no entrance on that back where the driveway ends? There's no garage or anything? Okay.
No,
All right.
there's not. There's just the main entrance and then the rear entrance, which is for emergency egress and, like we said, probably bringing in supplies or catered food. And then obviously there's doors under the patio.
And then doors onto the patio?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have the elevations if you haven't seen them. The building is lovely. Chris Carley did a fabulous job. So we're really excited.
I'd like to see the elevator. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, here they are. So this is the main entrance. This is the side you were asking about. The driveway
Yep.
comes around this side, so there's no entrance there. And then this is the patio.
Okay.
This is the doors out of that multi-purpose
Oh,
room.
and then a fence or something there?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all
this
right.
is screening
That
to
makes sense.
provide access, and this
Yep.
is the door where they would bring in
Makes sense.
supplies or catered food.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Teresa?
Just clarification. Is this camp for people, children, or dogs?
For people. It's for
Don't forget
people.
cats, too.
No,
Yeah,
dogs and cats.
no, that's a great question. So they're intending to keep all of the animal facilities in the existing facility, but some of the rooms that they use now for meetings or other camps and whatnot get displaced when they have animals. So they're looking for a place that's solely for people. There won't be animals over here.
Well, so do you have a camp for children?
The SPCA, they run camps.
Oh, I did not know that. So you're running a camp now at the current facility?
I think they've had trouble in the last couple of summers because of having space issues, so I can't speak to if they've had them the last couple of years, but I know they've had them, and they're looking to continue to do those type of either day camps or other, workshops and things. So they're looking to make sure they still have that meeting space.
And this also says it's a commercial kennel.
Right, so the SPCA facility across the street is categorized as a commercial kennel, and
Right.
this is an extension of that. And so in the RO zone, we received a variance to continue that use, or to have that use on this property as well.
Even though that's not what you said you're using this property for?
It's part of the, I think it's just part of the accessory use of how they're using it.
Great, thank you.
Suzanne?
So, in the parking area, I know that we have new regulations, you plant one tree for every 2,000 square feet now?
Correct.
So you've met all but on Silk Farm Road, are you required to have a, barrier for headlights or something because you've got the U's along the edge?
No, we, I believe the buffers that are required if you have a non-residential zone abutting a residential zone, but there isn't anything specific for
So
a
I
non-residential
guess what I'm
use.
wondering why you have a bunch of U's along the driveway? Because if you could take that money and plant more trees along the parking lot, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna plow that, and those are gonna get smushed, but the trees won't get smushed.
I
So
will
if you wanna
certainly
take
relay
that,
that.
even though you're not
Yeah.
required,
Yeah.
if you take the money that you're gonna spend on something that's gonna die and get smushed, maybe you could plant 2 more trees along the
Sure,
driveway.
absolutely.
Because you don't want to have bark mulch, and you're going to end up having that all bark mulch. So if you have the trees, you just have to bark mulch maybe around the trees.
Right, so you're thinking in lieu of these shrubs right here that are between the trees?
They serve no purpose whatsoever.
Okay, no, that's a great
And-
suggestion. We can do that.
They don't. I mean, unless, the trees are so much better. I mean, unless
I'm not
you're
arguing with
required to have something to screen it. Yes, Heather.
Only Rich can call on me.
I'll call on you. Hang on. Oh,
I think
yes.
hers is related to this.
No, isn't there a 5-foot landscape strip area requirement? So I think that's what they're trying to meet, the 5-foot landscape area. So there's a requirement to have a 5-foot planting bed,
And that's going to be their planting bed?
those U's, yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. So how about just
Is that
having
for a
some,
parking lot that's over 25 spaces? We're 21.
I thought it was for all
I mean,
parking
trees
lots.
are going to, because it's,
Well, we can check.
with you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare.
no. Well, I mean, because I'm right.
Yeah, I know.
So
you're
why
right.
did you put them there if they're not to meet a requirement?
I would have, we subcontracted to terrain planning, a landscape architect
Oh, right.
designed this. I'd be happy to ask that question, but I can't answer
Yeah.
that myself.
Well, the
I'd be happy
trees
to
would be
ask.
better by the parking lot, obviously,
Sure.
especially because of the orientation. And I guess I don't think necessarily, there was the building that, I don't know if it was a catch building or something over by the Y, and they put rocks everywhere, thinking that that was going to solve the problems with the weeds, and it doesn't. And it doesn't add anything. But you don't need them on the parts of the house that don't have the roof coming down, so you could eliminate that and just have a grass panel or something, but,
I would assume that it is to meet the 5-foot landscape strip, and it is to provide screening from the cars from the street, some type of evergreen screening.
she didn't think that was the case on Silk Farm Road.
Well, it's not a requirement to buffer the cars, but I think that might be the intent of the landscape
The
architect.
landscape buffer is required for any parking lots over 10 spaces.
Okay, but what about the other side? I mean, where?
I think it's required on both sides. It should be on the other side as well.
Well, I guess then they don't have
Treed
to,
though, isn't it? The other side's just trees.
well, a landscape buffer could still include trees, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you could use deciduous shrubs, which won't be damaged as much as with snow. So I guess I would prefer to see more trees than yews.
So you could put cheaper plants, because usually tend to be more expensive. So less expensive shrubs and a couple more trees.
And maybe what we could do, balancing the concerns of landscaping, the parking lot, and also snow storage and not damaging the shrubs, maybe we could pull the shrubs back a little bit so there's a little bit of a buffer. But to your point, we can certainly.
Yeah, and then that's more bark mulch, so, I mean, you
Yeah.
guys can work out the logistics.
We
I
will.
think more trees are better
Okay.
than having yews.
I will definitely work with Sam to come up with a landscape plan that addresses your concerns.
Non-smushable trees.
Unsmishable you.
Jeff?
Smushable,
Jeff?
good word.
So I have 2 quick ones. You said that's going to be an exit only on that side?
Correct.
You don't have any signing indicating that? There's no do not enter signs, there's no one-way types of signs, anything that
I
I saw
thought
on
we
the
had
plan?
added them, but if they're not on here, we will. Yeah, they're not. Yes, it was, we will definitely have, because right here it will say do not enter. We'll have a one-way sign, and then this will have a one-way.
Okay. The other thing is, and I know we've gone back and forth of this on other site plans, for ADA spaces that are van accessible, our standard does show 11 and 5, but ADA is 8 and 8. It's an 8-foot parking spot with an 8-foot hatched area. And I would think that in this particular case, the federal standard would override, and I think on another plan, we actually had them change it to 8 and 8. It's the same width, still 16 feet, but it's required under ADA to be 8 and 8.
It's the same distance to me. I don't mind. This has been
Yeah,
what we've
I
been
would
requested to do, but
prefer-
I'm happy to do 8 and 8 if that's the purview of the
I just
board.
know it's not what's shown in our details.
Staff does not object.
Thank you.
Sure.
So can we make that going forward, so we don't have to address it? Going forward, it's 8 and
We
8?
can make a note in our regulations.
Okay.
and
I mean,
amend
I'd rather
it.
comply with the feds than.
Right, exactly, because they're the ones that are gonna come out and cause the issue if it's a
Yeah.
problem.
I think the
Absolutely.
nice thing about the 5-foot is people are less inclined to park on it. So I think that's probably where it's going, but I agree with you. We need to make sure we understand the
Good
letter of
point.
the law.
That's a good point, actually.
And I think that's what
They are
has led
less
to it.
inclined to
The
park on it.
larger space with the standard 5-foot aisle, people are less likely to park, and the 5 feet's not conducive to a car.
So I would just, do you mind if I ask?
Yep.
Does our engineering representative have any issues with that, or are we okay with that?
No, we're fine either way.
Okay,
I do.
just to check.
Yeah, he's good.
What?
Nope, I'm just shaking my head. Amanda?
I have a question in regards to like life safety. I'm assuming because, as you mentioned, camp, and that the driveways are across the street from each other, is it the responsibility of the city or of the owner to have any kind of crosswalks / people crossing signs or anything like that? Because I'm assuming if you've got camp on one side, they're going to go over to the Kennel side, and I didn't know if that was ever.
I don't believe that they are, and I wish Heather was here to answer that question. There hasn't been any discussion about that. It's really using that room, and there'll be bathrooms and food facilities there. So I think the intention is to be there, but I will ask that question. And certainly, if there is a plan to be bringing people across the street, we'll want to make sure we have a way to ensure safety.
The traffic on Silk Farm Road, you're gonna need a light.
Well, if there's auto on camp at the same time, I suppose, right? Yeah.
Or a Weeble, yes.
Yes, I don't believe there's a lot of crossing, but I'll ask the question.
Good luck in the cross.
I would just note that, just so you know, in the past, the traffic people have not typically recommended, and I don't know, Jeff, if this is part of your world, that there be mid-block crossing type that, because it tends to give a false sense of security to people crossing. Usually we try to keep all the crosswalks at the corners, but I don't know if we're actually talking about literal city crosswalks. We wouldn't recommend that, or some other type of treatment that the private facility might.
You could put a pedestrian sign or some of the
Yeah,
warning, but
something
yeah,
like
we
that.
do tend to. The other thing is if you do it, then you've got to make sure that it comes up to the street in a sidewalk that is ADA accessible. It's got to cross the street, it's got to go up the other driveway to sidewalk, ADA
Right, you
accessible.
need to
So
provide
there are a
it.
lot more considerations
Yeah.
that we have to start thinking about rather than just a straight
But at least if we put a
crosswalk.
sign, we could put a sign there.
Right.
that said pedestrian.
And again, just, it wasn't trying to open up any kind of can of worms. It was me just asking because, like, if you are intending to have pedestrians back and forth between the two buildings. But again, just a general question.
That's a good one. Any other questions? Any other comments from the board? Any member of the audience have any questions or comments regarding this application? No? Can we close the public hearing?
You can.
All right, we will close the public hearing. We will thank you, Aaron, for your testimony and a good-looking plan. Councilor Pierce, I'll grab your machine here so I can read it here. So in our packet, we've got, under recommendations, 2.1 is to grant ADR approval for the building design, site layout, landscaping with the recommendations that the easterly driveway be stubbed closer to the parking lot and request that the applicant return to ADR to present building color and material samples. Has that not been done? Building color and material samples?
No, that hasn't, no.
Someone like to make a motion to grant ADR approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. 2.2 is to grant major site plan approval for the new 2,515 square foot building for a commercial kennel. And again, Teresa's point regarding a commercial kennel versus a meeting space is well taken. I don't know if that, well, so grant major site plan approval for the 2,500 square foot building, a new parking lot and associated site improvements at 95 Silk Farm Road in the residential open space RO district, subject to the following precedent and subsequent conditions. That's precedent conditions 1 through 3, subsequent conditions 1, 2, and 3. Would someone like to make a motion to grant that major site plan approval as outlined?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries, so you are all set. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on in our agenda. If we could read item,
Talk about subs.
so we're skipping 8F, again, 8E, and, oh, no,
We're on 8E.
we're on 8E. So let's read 8E into the agenda if we could. Thank you, Rob.
TF Moran, on behalf of Interchange Development, requests major site plan approval for new construction of a new structure for 1,500 square feet of restaurant, 2,750 square feet of retail, 2,500 square feet for a credit union, and 2 drive-through lanes with associated site improvements at 4-8 Merchants Way in the Gateway Performance District. Staff recommends that we, well, also requested as a revision to a comprehensive development plan. So staff recommends that you open the public hearing and discuss that first. And I think we have an update. We have staff
Okay,
update.
so we will
Yeah,
open the public hearing.
Only for the CDP, not the major site plan.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing for the CDP and get a staff update.
Sure, so the applicant has found tenants for the property that was originally identified as a 2-tenant space for a restaurant and a bank. So they've revised the building, they've changed the location of the drive-through, where previously the building was up against Merchants Way and the sidewalk. There's now a drive-through lane that is spaced between the road and the sidewalk and the building. And there's additional parking, just the way that the building shifted between this proposed building and the adjacent restaurant. So it separates pedestrian access. So I just, before moving forward with the major site plan, the next phase of the major site plan, I just wanted to get feedback from the planning board if you have any concerns with this amendment to the CDP and this change, since it does change the configuration of this portion of the site. We did get another revised CDP plan from the applicant yesterday with regards to the urgent care facility that would be behind the Wendy's. So I don't know how you want to handle this, because this would be another change that would be coming forward with another site plan in the future. Staff has not had the opportunity to review that revision as well. We've only reviewed the one that's related to this major site plan that's before you tonight. We can bring that up on the computer there if you want to look at that, or if you want to address that in the future.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, it's working now.
Got a question?
Yes.
Are you comfortable looking at that? So are you asking to look at it, and if you're comfortable with what they propose, to approve that tonight as well?
Yes. And
So are
you
you
could condition it on, staff having the opportunity to look at it afterwards, that it meets we haven't even looked at it to see if it meets our regulations or if it works for fire apparatus and turning. So I can bring it up so you can see it here.
Yeah, if you could, that would be great. I mean, I've got a lot of questions about this revised plan versus the original plan. I mean, we spent an inordinate amount of time talking about moving around the site. We talked about sidewalks. We talked about the facing of the building onto the roads, as opposed to, and it looks just like any other development that we've done in the past that I was hoping we wouldn't be doing again. So I'd asked the original CDP to be put back in the packet here, and I'm happy that it's there, because again, there's some strong differences between the existing plan that we looked at and what we're seeing now.
So this area here is what we're talking about originally tonight, and this right here has changed. There was previously a connection behind the Wendy's that connected to this facility back here, which is going to be a proposed urgent care facility. I'm not sure, I haven't even looked to compare how this all changes. The Rossios are here. They're prepared to talk about this tonight.
It's not the only change.
Yeah,
That whole side changes.
okay.
Look, compared to the original, those other next three buildings to the right of the urgent care change as well from what's shown on the original.
Yeah, they're all backs of buildings facing the doors. Well, let's come on up if you can. That's what we're worried about. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you guys could state your names for the record.
Laurie Rossio from Interchange Development.
And David Rossio from Interchange Development.
Okay, if you could give us an update and kind of walk us through why this changed so much.
Sure.
Great.
So as we talked about, you last approved the comprehensive development plan when we submitted the site plan for the Wendy's, which is the first, well, you can kind of.
The pointer is to the left of the laptop.
Thank you.
That'll be handy. How's your aim?
Yeah, I don't know.
Shaky.
The on switch is on one of the sides. I don't know if it's on.
I'm sorry.
Need pointer
Don't be
class.
sorry.
Watch your eyes, Sam. She's aiming for you.
Yeah, oh, yeah, be careful. Oh, on the side. Got it.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
Sorry, Rich, did I get you?
No, I just saw it under the table.
All right, so over here, we have the Wendy's, which was approved by this board a few months ago, actually at the end of last year. And the plan that we had shown when we submitted this site plan last month was for this building, and we did not have any changes to these buildings. But some of the questions that were asked of us as to pedestrian connections, why the building had shifted, things like that, made us realize that we probably should just start discussing this plan. This plan does not have AOT approval. All the plans that we've done before were similar to our AOT approved plan. That's alteration terrain. So we didn't think it was prudent for us to show you this plan without having that AOT approval, but Beth has said that perhaps, you know, we should look at that. So it's subject to change because of that. You know, without alteration of terrain approval, we can't go forward. You have to have all the drainage and so forth worked out. So I heard Jeff, oh boy, this already failed on me. Okay. So I heard Jeff mentioning that this building has changed as well. So there's the restaurant is the same, the liquor store is the same, this building hasn't changed, and obviously the Market Basket and Home Goods, which is currently under construction, have not changed. Okay. What has the urgent care, I'm afraid to hit Sam, the urgent care is right here, and that is still in design process with the tenant, but they have asked for the building to be located in this orientation. And we've also been asked to provide space for a second junior anchor. So this is a 23,000 square foot building. And what we did to make it what we thought worked together was we eliminated the building that was in the middle, that was the dental eye care, and we attached it to the larger retail. So that we now have this kind of U-shape shopping plaza with the urgent care connecting via a couple of different ways into that plaza. What this allowed us to do is to maintain the pedestrian connection directly off of Whitney Road through the site to the front door of those larger retail, as well as to have them come up and hit the 4 to 8 Merchants Way property. One of the other things we did from the plan that was submitted was there was a lot of concern about the circulation of the pedestrians at this point. We removed some of the compact spaces that had been shown, and we realigned the sidewalk to better, to not be as circuitous as we had shown in the previous plan submitted last month.
Yeah.
So there is a bunch of changes in here.
And a lot of it is market-driven, but also grading has been an issue with the site. Soil conditions are not as good as we would have liked, and that has required a lot of the buildings to go up in elevation in order to have the cover over the subsurface drainage systems. So that causes some difference in grade. And that was one of the main reasons why this access point to the drive-through ended up having to be this way as opposed to coming directly off of Merchants Way, which is how it was shown in the original CDP. Another concern was the bank. The financial institution that is looking to go in this location was very concerned about the proximity of the drive-through to Whitney Road, to Merchants Way. It would have allowed for only maybe 6 cars of queuing in each lane, and through COVID, they obviously experienced much longer queues, and they wanted to see that they could get as many as they could, more than what is required by the city, which only requires 5 cars. So this orientation allows for the queues to go around the building and spill into the parking lot if it ever became, significant, as opposed to the queue going out onto Merchants Way. One of the concerns is the pedestrian crossing of that drive-through. And I would submit that it's very similar in that the prior plan had the pedestrian crossing the drive-through on Merchants Way, where the cars would have been going faster. So now the pedestrians are crossing the drive-through at a much inside a parking lot where the cars are going slower. So, so that's just a general overview. But I guess I would just want to point out that none of these parts of the plan, the great majority of the site, has not changed. So I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So I have a question regarding what I'm seeing in my packet. So I'm looking at my packet has revised CDP. Beth, maybe you can answer this, but in my packet doesn't show these.
Because I just got this, we just got this.
Okay.
So that's why I brought, that was the question was, do you want to
first
talk the one that you guys had
No,
last
that's fine.
week?
I wanted to see this
And this
one.
is the
So
one that
this
we
is the
just got.
revised one.
Yep.
So what's in my packet for the bank, this 3-building bank building hasn't changed, right?
The only thing that's changed is what she was just talking about was this right
queue.
here.
Yeah. And then those other buildings down at the bottom, right? Those aren't there on my plan.
Right, this is the new.
Yeah.
So this is the new stuff that's
So-
not related to the major site plan that's before you now. This is, I asked them to come because since we knew this was, since they started talking about for their next submission
Yeah.
after this one, they're gonna change the CDP again. So I asked them to talk about it tonight so that every time they submit, we're not going through this process again.
So when are they, so those 3 buildings that are down there on the bottom, those are not, we're not talking about those tonight?
As part of the CDP you are, but not as a major site plan.
Okay. So I want to talk about those 3 buildings, because those, to me, look like the backs of buildings that are going to be facing the street. Is that right? Or is that's not the primary access for that?
Which street are we speaking
Well,
of?
so the bottom of the building there, the bottom, that right there.
Yep.
Change drive.
So Interchange Drive is your primary entrance in for people to get into Market
It's actually a
Basket?
secondary
Yeah, that's not the
point.
main street.
This is the main entrance,
Okay.
Merchants Way. What's not shown on this plan is the entrance to Merchants Way is if you just continue down this central
Right through
corridor.
to the center.
Yes.
Is
So-
it possible to zoom out just a touch?
You have control of the
Oh,
computer
we
right
do.
there.
So yes,
I asked the answer yes, thank you.
I can figure that out.
allegedly.
Oh, there we
There
go.
you go.
This is better.
So talk to me about those 3 buildings that are down on the bottom of the plan. So are those fronts of the
Right here.
buildings, those fronts are on the parking lot side, right?
Yes.
So all those backs of the buildings are gonna be what you see when you drive up Interchange or whatever that drive is?
Yes, they would be, landscape because this is a loading dock area that's necessary for that size building. But there would be an access point through this connection around the urgent care and then as well as over here. But they could certainly come in the front. It's multiple ways to come in.
Just so we understand, I want you to take that pointer and show the industrial.
There?
Industrial, over here, yep.
Right.
So interchange was primarily designed to service the back of Market Basket. Market Basket requires, major truck circulation in and out of their site. So we designed interchange to be that point. And then also to separate out any industrial traffic to this future industrial portion of the property.
Yep.
It's never meant to have been the main entrance into the property.
Okay. You gotta have the back of the building somewhere. I just wanna know what the traffic's gonna be around it.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments from staff? Anything else that we're missing, or?
I don't think so. I'm just trying to
All
get
right,
your.
keep it up. Jeff?
Did you,
No, Rich made the point, I think that, it would look strange if the building was turned the other way, because then the back would be in the parking lot.
Yeah. You gotta have the back somewhere.
Somewhere it's gotta be back in the building, you're right.
Let's put it on Store Street.
I didn't go there.
Go ahead, Jeff.
as long as
We
the
were all
door is
thinking it.
facing the street, we're good. Yeah, I mean, as I've said before, my big thing is when we looked at that first plan over a year ago, there was all these internal pedestrian connection stuff, and each plan that's come through seems like we're losing a little bit. We're losing a little bit more, and losing a little bit more. I don't share your optimism that the entrance, the crosswalk across the drive-through is safer. I think when it was along the street, people expect that's the sidewalk, and they expect people to potentially be walking across. Here, if it backs up like the bank thinks it might, you've now got pedestrians walking in between cars in the drive-through, potentially. So that, I think, is one thing. We kind of had this centralized walkway now before, and now it seems like you've got to walk around the face of buildings everywhere to make connections. I am curious with the size of changes of these buildings and whatnot. Has anybody gone back and looked at your traffic study to make sure all your total square footages, usage, and everything are still consistent with what the original study showed? Also, the study may have also shown more traffic coming through Interchange Drive with these buildings on the front. Now you're putting a lot more traffic through the roundabout. So that coming through Merchants Way, I know they still came through the roundabout from a different entrance point. So just what the potential that has. It's hard to see on this plan, but is the Convenient Med building, is there a driveway coming out onto Interchange Drive in that lower corner?
There is.
Zoom in a little.
Oh, yeah, again, I can zoom in.
Okay.
You can move the laptop a little bit if it's easier for you.
I just might have some concern if that's an entrance and an exit that
No.
close.
It's only an exit, and the reason for it is we have been told time and time again by the fire department that they would like the ability to circulate around buildings and not back up. So there was really two choices. One was to have them go through the Wendy's site in order to get out once an ambulance or a fire truck had to go to the urgent care, which is quite likely, or to provide this egress. And we've done the turning templates to make sure it can be done. We think it's a better way to do it than to send the fire trucks up through Wendy's, because it allows for that pedestrian connection to be made without crossing any, either of the two parking lots. So we liked it better. But we took into account your comment that you don't want the individual buildings to be separate, like little pads. So this has a connection over to the front door of the larger retail through this means right here, so.
So how?
Multiple connections, I guess is our point.
Other than signage, is there any way that that driveway is going to be an exit only? Because I can see somebody
No, I
coming
know.
in, they don't want to go all the way
Nope.
around their building.
I understand.
Into the left they
We'll
go.
work on that. We'll certainly work on that.
Yeah, I don't know if-
I know if it's physically possible, they'll be doing it, so we'll make sure that it's not physically
Right.
possible.
They do it at
It's
CVS on East Side Drive, just
Really
about
just
every
meant
day.
for the fire trucks. So, I'd hate not to gate it, but that is another option.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that, or if it's, bad word, median on that short stretch of the entrance,
see.
if there's a way to adjust it,
Yep.
at all.
So when
that
we
might
get
be-
to site plan for,
Yep, and that's
for
fine, I
that-
understand, these are just some thoughts to think ahead, so when you come in for site plan,
Yes.
you and TF Moran have already kind of thought through what we're gonna ask you, you know what I mean? To save you back and forth,
Yep.
hopefully.
And again, I just, I know these are CDPs and you'd like them to stay the way they are, but
Right.
every time we dial in to a building, we find something else that has to change. And this entire plan has not been vetted through the AOT process. So we may lose some square footage here and there because of that. So just want to keep that in
Yep,
mind.
no, and I appreciate, I just, like I said, I just want to be cognizant that that was one of those things a year ago that we made a very big point of saying, pedestrian interconnection, and I just want to make sure that we are providing reasonable, accessible access for all users in a path that makes sense, and it doesn't necessarily have to always be around buildings or whatnot. A little different than what the original plan was.
There are three points to go from Whitney Road all the way to the Market Basket. The north side of Merchants Way has a sidewalk, the south side of Merchants Way has the sidewalk, and then this center sidewalk going to the fronts of the properties.
The only other thing, oh, no, go ahead, Heather. You look like you had something. I'm good. This is CDB. I gotta forget, we're having this site plan as well, so
Yeah.
some of my other comments are more site specific.
Go ahead, Heather.
Can we bring up the original CDP? Can you? or do
I don't know where this, I didn't
Here,
pull
I'll
this
cut
out,
this
so.
Drive-through for a bank, right?
Where am I?
Drive-through's a bank.
Yes, the
Drive-through
drive-through
for
is a bank.
Not like a
yes.
Starbucks, right?
No,
Okay.
it's a bank.
Good question.
Yeah, because if you go to Tilton or up on Loudon Road in the Starbucks, it
No.
causes major conflicts with pedestrians
Yep.
and other traffic, but a bank?
No, we actually did get a request to have both a bank and a fast food in this building.
Yeah.
And we had to tell them no.
Yeah, that would be-
Just no.
We
So
just had to set them aside.
everybody wants a drive-through, and
Yeah.
I know you're getting inundated with those requests, but that's what the market is requesting for everybody.
Especially when they close their lobbies, you're right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either drive-through or pickup window, or, it's very difficult.
Well, you'll see that the one exception to that is this sub shop that's at
Yes.
the northern portion of this
Jersey
building.
Mike's,
Yes.
Right, the Jersey Mike's, those
Yep.
folks do not need a drive-through.
they don't want one.
They're a little unusual.
That's why we grabbed them.
Yeah.
So, and we are providing on the north side, which we'll talk about when we get to site plan, a outside seating area for them. So,
Trying to find.
I know, I'm sorry, I
Wasn't it
didn't
part of the
think
package,
that-
Heather?
It was in there, yep.
The original CDP.
It's right there, you have it open at the
Yeah,
top.
I
right
know.
there.
Everybody, chill.
Everybody chill.
And it's only 8:45 and it's getting punchy. Look at
So,
that. Wait an hour.
so just to.
I know, this is a horrible
with-
CDP.
With respect to what you were saying, Jeff, about, when we started this process, it was like, can we get 4 buildings on the corner? That's where we started. Can we get 4 buildings, create a there with like a central space? And then it was like, okay, well, no, we need to put the parking, and nothing against you guys. I know this process has been long and every step of the way, but then it was like, okay, no, we're gonna put the parking in between the buildings, but we're gonna keep this relationship here in terms of creating a space there. So you can see this building used to be lined up with this corner edge, and the idea would be that these entrances would be here and this would be a relationship here. And, I think at the time we'd said, okay, so maybe we can try to get some street wall or some sidewalk treatments to sort of create a sense of a space here, so that even though it is, parking in between, that we're having some sense of trees and a space and a sense of a wall there, which is sometimes when you put a wall up, a short wall, it can create more of a sense of space. And so, to your point, Jeff, with this latest iteration, we've lost this, not just this piece. I mean, it's true, you haven't changed these 3 buildings, but this building is in relation to this building. So you've kind of lost this building when you lost this building. So it's still there, but the relationship that you were trying to create is no longer there. So this whole piece right here becomes disconnected. It just becomes completely disconnected from the sentiment that we were originally trying to make in terms of the relationships. So now we've got this building, which is surrounded by, there is no relationship there. There's a relationship here with the parking, and it's surrounded by drive aisles. So, it's true that this is the only change, but one of the things that makes a comprehensive plan comprehensive is that all the pieces fit together. So I think, it's true, and it's true that each step of the way, things have to change because you don't know to begin with, but it's like they never go the other way. We're not seeing like, oh, you know what, it would really work better if we put this building over here. It's like the only answer is always to make the buildings further and further apart and surround them with more and more drive lanes. And it's hard to understand why we can't come up with a solution that makes it go better in the other direction. Now we've got even more parking between these two buildings. Now this building where the entrances might be fronts on more parking. And so those are just some of the concerns that we had. And maybe these are problems that can't be solved because of the nature of the clients and the market and all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to point out what the original intent was and how we do keep moving further away from it. And those are some of the important pieces. Not even looking down here, because I haven't even seen that yet, and I don't understand all the implications of the changes that were made here in terms of those relationships. I think this is very different from what they're showing there. A question I would have is there a retaining wall here? Is there a significant grade change between these two? And I'm like, well, if this is what we were going to have to end up going with, maybe that retaining wall should have been over here. And these things should have been designed together more comprehensively because they're very vehicular oriented and you got all these drive lanes and it doesn't look like it's organized very well. It's like each building has its own mess of drive lanes, windows and everything. It's like, I don't know, maybe it is what it is now, but why, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but to me it makes more sense to somehow organize these things together with all the drive lanes, with all the drive-through lanes. This building hasn't even come in yet. Who knows? Maybe these people come in and we get another one of these over here. And I think that's very possible. So, and again, just that's my piece about, from a planning perspective, in terms of how the site is functioning, some of the concerns that we had.
So, Heather, if I could.
Yeah.
On that plan you just had up, is there any possibility of doing an L-shaped building? No, the actual site plan you had with the CDP. Could you do an L-shaped building with the longer leg along Merchant's Way? And then
like that?
And then the L down the side, and then the drive-through could still be on the end of the leg and wrap around the building, but at least the majority of the building faces, and maybe it's just the one drive aisle, so you have more building frontage on Merchant's Way and less. I don't know, I'm just trying to think if there's another way to orient it that still might work.
They're all design questions, and I think they're probably, I don't know the different solutions that there might be.
I didn't know if that's what you were thinking, though, was
Yeah.
building on, putting the building back so the majority
Sure.
of the footprint was on Merchant's Way to create that symmetry kind of across the street.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that it's the right idea for us to try to design this at this moment. These are just the concerns that we had as staff. If the board shares them, maybe we say, hey, let's look at this again. I have not spoken with the Rossios. We have not had design meetings with the Rossios about this site. And this is really the first time I've said this to them. So I don't know if it's, if it's news to them or what. But, so anyway, I guess I would just say that those are the same types of things we've said all along. And,
I just wanted to respond to your comment about the L-shaped building. One of the other issues we're dealing with besides the 4-foot grade change is that a significant tenant in the property has asked us not to put any buildings along the road, along the south side of the road. So whether or not we have to have you can have open space there. It doesn't have to be paving, it could be open space, but we could not figure out how to get the drive-through in the site. So the building that we had designed before was rejected. So that's one of the major issues
what do you
that
mean
we have.
What do you mean rejected?
They don't want it there.
But how, I understand what you're saying, but you have tenants that have leases and condominiums. Did you write into those agreements that they have control over the rest of your site? Because I would think where they're supposed to be, and shouldn't be able to tell you where to put all the rest of the buildings on your site.
Well, they're in a butter, so they have the ability to take us to court if they don't like any of these things. And yes, they do have the right to reject the rest of the development in the condominium documents that you have.
I think that's really concerning, considering this is the plan that the city adopted.
Then I'm just submitting to you all the information, and it goes to the other comment you had about the open space at the corner of Merchants where it turns next to the restaurant. So for the same reason, that will not change. And I can promise you that it won't change, because we're trying to keep this open feeling for them, a viewpoint to the building. So that will not change. It can't.
I think it's concerning that
I think
the private.
this is all of our requirements of the CDP have been met in terms of what the purpose of a CDP is. We have read it. We have read what the purpose of the gateway is. I think that we've met the purposes of those things. If we want to debate this some more, we can certainly do that. I would just like if we could maybe get the same waiver as the other folks and have a public hearing for the site plan at the next meeting as well, if you decide, since it sounds like you might be deciding not to approve the plan as being complete, that we could do that determination of completeness in the public hearing at the next meeting.
Any objection to that? I mean,
I don't even understand what
I don't want to go another extra meeting, and I'm asking, since the prior applicant did the same thing, that was something we could consider.
This is completely different. I don't even understand what you're asking right now, to be honest.
This, one of the staff
There's no determination of completeness component in this, so
Well,
we would
there's-
have to determine it complete and open the public hearing. So, yeah, you're right, there wouldn't need to be that.
So,
Go ahead, yes, sir.
my hair's beginning to hurt here a little. So are what you presented us possibly with a new plan? And you're asking that next month we do a determination of completeness on this new plan and have the public hearing at the same time?
Correct.
When staff really hasn't gone through this plan yet.
Well, that would give them the time to do that.
So there's two, can I just
Yeah.
interject? So here's the
I'm
options.
just trying to,
Yeah.
I'm
So-
not for or against it, I'm just trying to understand it.
So what we presented before this new plan came in yesterday, let's go back to last Friday when the agenda went out, we had a revised CDP, which just changed the Jersey Mike's Bank site. And we wanted to check to see if the board would approve that CDP amendment before determining that major site plan application complete. If you approved that CDP amendment tonight, then we're saying, yes, determine the application complete for the major site plan tonight, set the public hearing for March 16th. But now that we have the other CDP amendment that just came in that staff hasn't really gone through, and you're all just seeing tonight for the first time, you can decide to say, you know what, we're not going to look at all these changes, we're only going to look at the Jersey Mike's Bank section of the CDP, approve that tonight so we can move forward to the major site plan, and then next month we can go through the other CDP and the major site plan application. So I think they're asking, what can we do just to make sure that they still have the public hearing next month I don't think you need a waiver for that. I think that you can determine the major site plan application complete tonight if you so choose, and have the public hearing for everything next month.
I think what they're asking, I hear what you're saying. I think, and you can correct me, but you're saying if we don't approve this tonight and you have to go back and redesign it, and then you come back next month for a determination completeness with a different plan that maybe fixes some of these issues, can we waive the requirement to have the determination completeness in the public hearing all in one night? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I was just trying to get to was the fact that you had asked that the CDP needed to be approved tonight. And it sounded like they weren't interested in doing that so that we could go back to you folks. Now, if the plan changed significantly, we'd have to obviously come back in for a different site plan. So if it didn't change and we went forward with the CDP, where am I going with that? Then we need the determination of completeness to go to the public hearing. So that could be the next meeting. That's what I was trying to get to. I may be incorrect in the process, so
I
forgive
think
me.
the first question we need to answer is the board in favor of the revised CDP? Like, before we talk about what's going next, what does the board want to approve what they've submitted? Do they want changes to it? Do we want to go
And
back to
again,
the
I think
original?
so, you know, what's in our packet is different than what's on the screen.
Right.
And if we look at it and just say, okay, the only thing we're looking at is this 3-building cluster with the bank and whatever else in the drive-through, is that the only component on here that we're looking at approving? Because I'm not comfortable approving the CDP that was just up on the screen there without some more detail and you guys looking
Are
at
you
it.
comfortable approving this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the appetite for the board is, but can we approve just that 3-building piece of it?
Yes.
And look at just that?
Yeah, so
we
that's what I
can-
wanted to give you the
So
opportunity tonight.
let's look at the parking lot outside it, the 3 buildings, the drive aisle that's there, and then, again, location, we're not gonna, you know, we're not designers, so we're not saying change the building, put an L on it, do this, move it around, switch it around. I just don't know where we go from here.
Excuse me, Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Could we change this to show the CDP that's in your packet?
Oh, that is what's in
That's
the
what's up
packet. That is. That's what's in their
That-
packet.
Yeah, what's up there right
That's
now is what's in the
Yeah.
packet.
I didn't look at it close enough.
Yeah.
Apologize for that.
That's what's in our packet, that's what we saw, that's what we were looking at. But then what was shown is different, and
Right.
again,
Right.
what's different, how many pieces are different, I don't know.
Right, so, I mean, in order for them to move forward with the Jersey Mike's, they need the amendment approved for this, what's shown right here. They
Right.
don't need what was shown earlier to move forward with that major site plan
So
application.
what's in our packets and what we're seeing here is what we're talking about.
If that's,
So
yeah, yes.
let's do that. Let's look at that, talk a little bit more about that, figure out if there's common ground to move forward or not. That,
I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that we
is
did.
everybody,
Oh, sorry.
is everybody's hair, what did you say? Your hair was,
It was hurting.
your hair was hurting? Is your hair?
Back,
my needle
I'm
point
I'm
out.
back to the ducks and bunnies version now.
So everybody comfortable with what we're talking about?
We're focusing on that one piece.
Just that
On that
building.
one building.
Just that 3-cluster build, that 3-building drive aisle, again, design-wise, look and feel, again, comprehensive development, we're not talking site plan approval, we're just talking comprehensive development. We don't have elevations, we don't know what the front looks like.
There are some
You have elevations.
Yeah.
We do.
Yes.
But that's part of the site plan application, but yeah.
Yeah,
we
but
can
that
look
would
at them.
be,
They're
yeah.
pretty-
Yeah, that's included under that.
Yeah. So there are some, modifications that we were showing in that second plan that we would make to this plan to, like, the compact spaces that we were talking about, to fix the comments made by staff about this crazy sidewalk that we had in that plan that you're looking at. It was circular in order to get to the ADA requirements, and we found another way to make it work.
But, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, is the only change really Jersey Mike's right there at the very top?
Yes.
That's really all we're looking at, that's changed?
Yep. There's we made the connection a little bit better to the pedestrian side on the south side of the building, but yes, essentially it's the north side, the pedestrian sidewalk has been reconfigured. And the 4 spaces have been removed. Oh, and there was additional landscaping added to the front of the Jersey Mike's so that the landing spot for the pedestrians was bigger.
So it's really more pedestrian friendly?
I believe it is,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I
my
think. And
opinion.
it seems like doesn't seem like a big deal change, and it certainly doesn't seem like, it seems like a positive change if it's more
Right.
pedestrian friendly.
We were addressing the staff's concerns regarding that.
Right, yeah.
Just to be clear, not from the original CDP, from the previous version of the revised CDP.
No, I know, and I don't think it makes any difference whether it's the original, the revised, the second revised, the third revised. I think we need to say fuzz
This is the one we're looking at.
This is what we're looking at. This seems to me more pedestrian friendly, and it doesn't seem like it seems fine to me, frankly.
Wait, are you looking at the right one?
I don't think,
I'm looking at the one that's in my packet.
So there's,
That's the right one.
I'm looking,
That's the one that's up there.
understanding with the, so this is the original that has no drive lane. The original has no drive-through lane at all.
It does, it's just behind the building.
Right, it's way over here.
All right.
So between the sidewalk and the other, in the road, in the building, there's no drive lane. So the change that they're making is they're changing from having this building here to putting this building here with a drive-through. So that's the change that we're talking about.
And that's all we're dealing with tonight, is just isolating those 3 buildings right there, correct?
Right, one building with 3 units.
Correct, okay, all right. Just want to be clear on what we're voting on.
And which one is Jersey Mike's?
Northernmost
This
tenant
one right
space.
here.
They're just making it 3 instead of 2.
North is up on this plan.
So instead of having these buildings are now fronting on a parking lot instead of fronting on the
We're
street.
not talking about what's going on down here. All right.
Okay, let's figure this out. Jeff?
I'm not sure if it's more of a site plan issue or the CDP, but when I look at this plan, I see an unfinished sidewalk at the bottom of the plan. I see a crosswalk to nowhere. I see the Jersey Bikes bank building does not connect across to the sidewalk along the proposed retail, nor does it connect to the sidewalk that's in that parking lot that heads over toward the future potential restaurant. That just ends in the middle of a drive aisle or whatever. So this plan is shown really doesn't show that pedestrian connection, that whole lower corner. And I'm not really sure how that's being addressed. I mean, yes, if we're supposed to be looking at this one tonight, not what's coming potentially in the future, then I have concerns with lack of pedestrian connections and apparent pedestrian safety in that area.
Okay.
I have a dumb question.
Yes.
What pedestrians are you talking about and what are they connecting to?
If,
The red.
yeah, can I have the point real
Along
quick?
the front of the building.
I think we still got it.
There you go.
So
Walk there.
if somebody were in this building,
Yeah, if
I'd say-
somebody's at Jersey Mike's, which
so
is
right here, you've got a sidewalk that comes from the street, wraps in and comes and ends here.
yeah,
This is a future sidewalk connection that you can't get to. And then there's a crosswalk that goes out into the middle of nowhere here. And then there's a sidewalk that goes to this building that comes out right into the middle of a drive aisle, parking aisle. So there's no connectivity in that corner for pedestrians. If you wanted to visit the bank and then go to the restaurant, or the restaurant and go back to the bank, let's say, for point of reference, and not have to move your car. You just want to work back and forth, which I hope people would do and not just move their car across the parking lot. I know, big hope, but, so that's where I'm talking about, is this corner down here, this whole little piece, really doesn't seem to connect pedestrian-wise.
Thank you.
Could I, Chair?
Yes.
If I could
Sorry.
respond? So that was how we ended up with that other plan, just showing it to Beth where we're going because, and I'm going to throw TF under the bus here a little bit.
It's okay, they're not here.
They-
so-
Yeah, they were
They're
mixing
watching.
and matching plans, and so as a result, you have sidewalks that drop off to nowhere. And if you look at the plan we were talking about with all the other changes, it has that connection, as well as another connection going north-south from the front of the large I'll call it the junior anchor, back up to Merchants Way. And it corrects the issue that is on the north side of Jersey Mike's with the 4 compact spaces being removed and figuring that. So if you want, we can resubmit a plan that has those connections made that you're asking for.
Can I just, so in the staff report, we've mentioned 4 different options when you're looking at approving the CDP. And one of those is providing those connections. So if you were to recommend approval of the CDP amendment tonight, you could say conditional on addressing the staff comments or any additional comments that you want to add regarding that. And then those will need to be addressed. I mean, what you could do, you don't necessarily have to approve it. You could say, we'd like to see these addressed and we feel comfortable enough to, table this discussion of the CDP to the public and set the public hearing for next month and discuss those changes with the major site plan next month. So you don't necessarily have to approve the CDP tonight. We just really want to get, are you all comfortable with it layout-wise? that it can just be adjusted with these pedestrian connections or small tweaks, so they don't have to do a major site realignment, and then we can look at everything together next month as part of that public hearing. That's another way of doing it as well, if you don't feel comfortable approving tonight, but you feel comfortable enough to move forward with the public hearing.
There are those ducks and bunnies I was looking for.
You just cleaned it all up, didn't you?
Yeah, she had to clean it right up.
That could have happened, that could have happened a half an hour ago, but.
Now, I'm not following
Didn't you
you
mention
at
that
all.
half an hour ago?
Sorry.
Ducks and bunnies.
Where were you at 8:50?
For the record, I don't think that Market Basket should be able to tell the city where to
Well,
put their
yeah,
buildings.
we got that.
I would agree.
I agree.
Got that. Okay, so I'm in favor of that. I think we're getting close. But again, there's so many unknowns, to Jeff's point, where does this go? Where does that go? Where do things fall? That if we're comfortable with the structures of the structures and the layout of the building, the general concept of the building, let them come back, do everything in one meeting, so you don't lose a month.
Agreed.
Agree.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So
that was
So
all.
moved.
I don't know if it's a table.
It doesn't,
Can we
continue this public hearing on the CDP and then set the public hearing for the site division, the site plan for March 16th.
Would you like to wait and go last on the agenda next time as well? No, kidding.
We're fine with that?
I'm okay. I'm kidding.
I don't know, you've got some contentious
along,
stuff
that's
next
fine.
month.
We got a big agenda next month.
Make
so.
flexible.
So I would like to do that, so we can kind of get all our ducks in a row, get TF Moran earning their money.
Put you down and make you
Is that Nick?
Yeah.
No.
No, Jason.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get us some more kind of meat to look at that and get it into staff with enough time that they can evaluate it. Because we don't want it to be a day before or 2 days before. And then the waiver to do the determination of completeness and the public hearing at the same night.
No, we don't need a waiver.
We don't need a waiver.
No, you can determine it complete tonight and set the public hearing for March 16th,
Okay,
if you feel comfortable
that's fine.
with the
Without-
CDP
Without
where it's
approving the
headed.
CDP
Yep.
in that, but.
Yeah.
So if that's okay with the board, we can do that, determine the application complete with pending review of the CDP. Well, no, just determine the application complete. It is a regional
So I
impact.
would, so you opened a public hearing for the CDP.
Yeah.
So you could continue the public hearing for the CDP to March 16th.
Yeah,
And then determine the major site plan application complete and set the public hearing for that for March 16th to be
Okay.
heard at the same time as the CDP.
okay.
I move that.
I'll second it.
So let's do them both, let's do them one at a time. So we'll take a motion to continue the public hearing on the CDP to the March 16th meeting. Would someone like to make a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carries, so the CDP conversation will be continued to the March 16th meeting. And would someone like to make a motion to find the application complete?
And determine it a development of regional
Determine
impact.
that it is a development of regional impact and set the public hearing for March 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Good compromise. These things do work sometimes.
Thank
They
you.
do.
Appreciate your
Okay, thank you.
time.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Really.
We will.
We want to see it.
Thank you much.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you. All right. So
Item 2.
since we started, 8F and 8G have been put back on the agenda. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our, brings us to an update on zoning code phases 1 and 2.
Yep, so I've received the final draft of Phase 1 that hopefully we'll be passing off to legal for a final review next week. We have kicked off Phase 2, and let me see, March, we have scheduled, I'll send you all invites, so you don't have to remember this, but the last week in March, there'll be 3 meetings, 3 design charrettes, basically. There'll be one Tuesday after the last Tuesday in March that will be geared towards inviting all of the design professionals and the consultants and engineers and people like that to give presentations on the different, if you recall, Phase 2 was areas of the city that we didn't have master plans for, and so these will be like master planning those areas of the city, and they'll bring some precedents, they'll bring some images, they'll pick some sites to show conceptually what could happen there. And then Tuesday and Thursday evening will be similar presentation. Anyone can come to any of them. I'm just telling you who they're geared towards to depend, because of the times that they're scheduled. But the Tuesday and Thursday evening, the last week in March, there'll be one in that targeted towards the Pennacook area, and another one targeted towards the Loudon Road Heights area. And the issues are very similar. They're about retrofitting, regional commercial development, high-density housing. There'll be one looking at the mall site and that type of development, infill development for that type of stuff. Not the mall specifically, but that type of big box redevelopment of big box commercial development. And then there'll be one looking at some sites that we don't, or a district that we don't really have as much use for anymore, which is OFP. So that the south of their site, actually, which is the Whitneys, I'm sorry, the Rossios, south of the interchange development is a large area that's previously zoned industrial, or that is zoned industrial today, but there's been a lot of talk about what's going to happen there. So I'm kind of lumping, in terms of land use, that area in with the previously, it's current, the OFP district, which is the Office Park Performance. So that's like the Garvin's Falls is zoned that, and we've got some stuff out on Pembroke Road, sort of near Sheep Davis that's zoned that. So all of those will sort of be, we're sort of trying to group those into similar future land use development, which would be sort of a mix of warehouse, industrial, residential, think like maker spaces and studio workshops on the bottom with housing above, that kind of new warehouse development. I'm kind of going more in detail than I really meant to, but I just wanted to tell you that so there's 4 target areas and there's 4 sites, and those will be in the last week of March. I'm really excited about it, if you can't tell, and during the whole next course of the next year, I'm hoping to give just workshops and public meetings about phase 1 and answer questions and see, get feedback from the public on phase 1. Phase 2 is supposed to be a really short process, like 6 to 8 months. So we're really hoping, like towards the end of the year, to adopt the whole thing. It's like the final racing to the finish line kind of thing. So there's your update.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm sorry, I just rambled on because I was super excited about it.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Okay, any other business which may legally come before the board? Anything from staff? See you, David. Anybody else? No? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made, roundly seconded.
Loudly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a